Namaste, this is Timothy Halloran. I am an astrologer located in Savannah, Georgia, and this is a bi-weekly astrological forecast for the end of May 2016. You can purchase a reading from me at the link below. So in these videos, in these forecasts, we talk about the natural cycles, the natural movements, the rhythms and tides, the waves that affect us all, that influence all, that is one with nature and energy and life. And yet astrology is not understood or accepted by everybody, and yet it is scientifically proven. For example, the moon's rotation around the Earth causes a gravitational pull that causes the tides to move in and out. And so similarly, there are tides, there are waves, there are cycles that are greater, that are vaster, that are more expansive than this, and that's what we're going to be talking about here. And we might be sensing, those of us who are quite tuned in, plugged in, that there is this drawing back, this pulling back. And it's as if things are quiet, a little too quiet. And of course, this is when a little alarm starts to go off. Tidal wave. Stuff is about to come in. Stuff is about to shift. Stuff is about to change, and the winds of change are coming in. So I'm going to do my best to try and talk about the bits of information, the specific alignments and dates, and there's so much going on I'm going to have to look at my notes. And then I really want to get to the underlying message that I'm more so here to give. And so we have planets changing signs, changing directions. We had Jupiter turn direct in Virgo about a week ago. Coming up this Friday, Sun moves into Gemini. Taurus season is wrapping up. We're moving into Gemini season. Things are not about to slow down. The following day, Saturday the 21st, we have a full moon in Sagittarius, conjoined with Mars. And then the next day, the 22nd, Mercury turns direct. About a week later, the 27th of May, that's a Friday, Mars retrogrades back into Scorpio. In the midst of all this, next week, the 25th, Venus is opposite to Mars. Venus in Gemini opposite to Mars is a little bit of gender challenging. This is also a very political, creative tension where we start to come in contact with creative blockages and come in contact with differing opinions, different directions, and that's going to be a lot of these upcoming weeks. And we're going to talk about some of the underlying transits that are really going to be going on the next several months, such as Neptune squared to Saturn. But next week, the 26th, we have Jupiter square to Saturn. So there's really a T-square between Jupiter, Saturn, Neptune in Pisces, and that's what we're majorly going to be talking about and experiencing these next several weeks as the Sun's movement to Gemini. The next new moon in Gemini is going to be creating a mutable Grand Cross. And a Grand Cross is a creative struggle. This is a time where we are having different parts of ourselves pulling us in different directions, and the creative challenge is how can we bring it all together? All right? Now, these mutable signs, these are we can talk about cardinal, fixed, mutable. These are the three modes of astrology. They're really the three modes of nature. And my teacher Kai Pacha correlates these to the three main deities in Hinduism, Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva. Cardinal signs are initiating, they're creative signs. This is Brahma, the creator. Fixed signs are about preserving, staying steady. This is Vishnu, the preserver. Mutable signs is Shiva, the destroyer. Mutable is changing, shape-shifting, transmutating. Okay, and so we're entering a time where there is a lot that's shifting, there's a lot that is transmutating. And so let's talk about this T-square before we get more into the full moon between Jupiter, Saturn, and Neptune. Jupiter has been squared to Saturn really throughout the next year. The Jupiter-Saturn cycle is like a 20-year cycle, though. So we can actually look back to 2000. This was the last Jupiter-Saturn conjoinment in 2000 in Taurus. The next conjoinment is going to be in 2020 at 0 degrees of Aquarius. Similarly, Saturn coming into a square with Neptune This is a closing square. The prior cycle began in 1989 in Capricorn, and the next cycle is going to begin in 2029 at 0 degrees of Aries. So whenever we're talking about closing squares, and that's what this is, there's two different kinds of squares. When a planet is opening, this is an opening square, goes all the way around. Now we're talking about closing squares. Closing square is when things dissolve in order to make way for the new cycle to begin. All right, this is the natural cycle, movements, rhythms in everything. The closing square is called a crisis in consciousness. This is like we've been going through this whole cycle, and now things are about to evolve onto a totally new level than where they were before. And this is called a crisis in consciousness. It means that there is a totally new redirection of the very essence of what's going on. So like a closing square, Pluto square Sun is like, who am I? Am I a man or a woman? It's like, what is my fundamental purpose here is really being researched. Now, the Saturn-Jupiter cycle has to do with philosophy. It has to do with the orientations of society, culture, religion, the establishment, and the philosophy of that establishment. And this is where we're experiencing tension. Is our culture, our beliefs, our philosophy, does it match up with reality? Saturn is reality that you can see, that is real in the world. Saturn is karma, it's time, it's what you cannot escape from because it is here, it's tangible, and it limits us. We're limited to bodies, we're limited to forms, we're limited in time. And this type of limitation we call reality, we call the world. Jupiter is our philosophy, is our wisdom, is our perspective, and we're going to be talking about Jupiter because we have 2 full moons in Sagittarius this year. Sagittarius is ruled by Jupiter. So this is a time where our philosophies, our perspectives, our religions, our wisdom, our cultural beliefs are coming up to Saturn. And we are experiencing a crisis in consciousness, which is, does my philosophy, does my beliefs, does my cultural wisdom perspective, does it match up with this world, with what's actually going on in reality, not just in our minds, in form, in time, solid, inescapable reality. And what we are encountering is that many of these cultural ideas and beliefs may not totally match up with reality. And so, we are in this year where the moon's north node is in Virgo. That moon's north node's in Virgo until spring of 2017. And this is a time period where we are having to make many adjustments, fine-tuning what's going on. And that Virgo North Node, this is another practical, come down to reality, be in your body, confront reality, and see what problems need to be fixed, what adjustments need to be made, what holes are there that we perhaps might not have seen. And so, full moon in Sagittarius this approaching weekend, conjoined with Mars. Let's talk about Sagittarius and Jupiter. In itself, in its essence, we can maybe visualize Sagittarius as our bubble of perspective that is around us, okay? Sagittarius, in essence, is the perspective of the universe. It's an understanding of nature, of universal laws, as it is, as we see it. It is the natural rhythms and movements, etc. And yet, when we bring it down to the human level, we're not gods. We have a limited perspective. We can only see so far. And that is this bubble of consciousness that surrounds us. And this bubble of consciousness is our perspective that was formed by our experiences, by our upbringing. You know, this is our perspective on life. It's what makes us get up and go in the morning. It's sort of like our purpose, but it's aligned with our personal truth. Okay. This full moon conjoined with Mars is really a time that brings out the inner philosopher in us, and particularly conjoined with Mars, it's very loud. We all have our own perspective. We all have our own opinions. Of course, this is all going to be leading into presidential elections and politics and my way versus the highway. And it's like, this is a time where we're going to be experiencing these bubbles bouncing off of each other, trying to come together. And this first full moon in Sagittarius, which is May 21st, second full moon is June 20th. This first full moon, Jupiter has a tendency of getting a little ahead of itself. Jupiter has this, oh, well, I see everything in my bubble, everything's crystal clear in here, so let's just take this bubble and run with it. Go straight forward. I can see everything. This is how it is. My truth is set in stone. And that's a lot of what's being evoked out of us, being brought out of us at this time. This is what I believe in. This is what is true to me. The Sabian symbol for this moon is white-capped waves, rhythmically under the winds. It's like a vital call for activity, power to impress, proud adornment. This is my truth. This is my belief. Well, I see where you're coming from, but you don't see this. Well, I see where you're coming from, but you don't see this. We've also got some asteroids aligned with this full moon. The full moon's opposite to asteroid Vesta in Gemini, conjoined with the Sun, square to asteroid Pallas Athena in Pisces. This Mars moon opposite to Vesta can be conflicts of our mind and our willpower and what we feel deeply and intuitively. And the T square to Pallas Athena in Pisces is a creative frustration. There's a lot in the weather going on these next several weeks, this next month, that is having to do with encountering obstacles in our own creativity and our own willpower, aka our capability to take our ideas, our beliefs, our visions, and actually anchor them down in this world in a tangible form, actually doing it, actually being it, and not being distracted. Not being distracted by misleading notions or scapegoating or copping out. That's a lot of what needs to get ripped out of us, and it's going to. We're not going to be able to just cop out. Oh, well, I believe in this, so I go to heaven later, so I can just chill out and do nothing during this lifetime. All done. Or I signed up for this, or, I elected this president. The next president and the next pope isn't going to be solving these challenges that we're starting to encounter. And the reason why I can say that with such confidence is because these challenges go way, way deeper than many of the simple, idealistic solutions that people are coming up with. Oh, problem solved. And it's like paving over this garbage dump with a fresh layer of concrete and then painting a smile face on it. Problem solved. And we're going to be encountering a lot of this type of passion and logic, and this is what we need, and this is the solution. And all I got to say is we are entering a time where this stuff is going to start dissolving. This is a time of wake up. We might not have everything squared away, and everything might not be as pretty as that paved smiley face on top made it out to be. We live in a culture that encourages this kind of behavior. Yeah, you're not inwardly satisfied. You have no idea what's going on. You don't even know how to take care of yourself. But look at this billboard. If you buy Colgate, toothbrush, you'll be fine. It's like this culture has the worst paving over, not actually acknowledging what's going on. But we have to acknowledge what's going on. It is a part of the divine connection to nature that we have to wake up. We have to wake up out of these delusions, out of these limiting bubbles that we think we have everything squared away. Oh yeah, I know what love is. Oh yeah, I know what the truth is. I know what my relationship to God is and my relationship to the earth. And yeah, I'm going to say, this isn't saying like, oh, you're wasting your time in this full moon, you're going to just, blah, 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 be totally delusional. No, we have something here. We have bits of the truth, we have information, we have intuition, but there is a whole lot more to the picture, especially when it comes to the truth. God, religion, love, what we should do in this world that's not totally fixed yet. There's not going to be a one-way, quick fix solution to any of this stuff. So at the time of this full moon, the mean apogee of Black Moon Lilith exactly transits into Scorpio. A week later, Mars retrogrades back into Scorpio. Taurus time is going to be wrapping up. You know, at the time of this full moon, we do have Mercury stationed, trine to Jupiter, in a grand trine with Pluto and Jupiter. So there is, like in the last video, there is this possible to be grounded in the earth, start changing things in our physical lives to bring in a sense of stability and simplification. That's still a very powerful vehicle that can help us get through these next couple months that are much more existentially, mentally, whoa, okay, this stuff is bigger than what I thought it was. This stuff goes deeper than what I thought it was. And you know what? This can be really, really hard. Not because it's physical devastation, because this is like, oh, okay. And, you know, it's challenging to even talk about because we live in a world where we have to admit to ourselves that we don't know everything. We have to admit with ourselves that we have some delusional misconceptions, and that is totally the recommendation for this entire summertime, is to do this. Everything's dissolving, everything's changing. The more fixed we are, the more we assume that we know everything and we've got everything squared away, that is going to be proportionally as devastating as this time will be. And so, full moon in Sagittarius conjoined with Mars is bringing all of this stuff out of people. Oh, Donald Trump or Bernie Sanders, and this is going to solve it, this is going to solve it. Oh, don't you know that the world's not a globe, it's a flat earth, and this is going to solve all our problems, and if you don't believe this, you're crazy, and if you don't believe this, you're possessed by the devil, and all this stuff, and it's just like, holy moly. The more we drive these stakes in, the harder it's going to be to pull this stuff out. We want to be as open, as flexible, as accepting of whatever. God evolves. Love evolves. The truth evolves. If we can understand that that's nature and not get so carried away with the be-all, end-all, black and white, simple and done with it type of living and logic and understanding, we'll be in a much, much better place. So this stuff moving back into Scorpio, Mars going back into Scorpio, says there's more to the picture. There is a bigger spectrum. It goes deeper. It's more inconceivable. It's more murky. It's less black and white. It's complicated. And this is Mars going back, and there's all of this creative sexual frustration that's going on now too. Because we have to actually learn how to handle this stuff. And this is where things get very interesting and very deep. Because the whole sexual area of consciousness is like the storage room of the collective. It's like so much stuff gets shoved in the sexual area. And that's because death and birth and sex are all kind of using this one doorway. And so this is where so much birth trauma, sexual trauma, and death trauma all get shoved into this little area called Scorpio that's like a black hole fusion reactor. And this is where we're going into, the black hole fusion reactor. And this is where we start to encounter some of the deep, unconscious ingrainments. It's in our DNA, it's in our nature. And it can extend very far back. It can extend into the last age. It can extend into our previous lives where we had previous traumatic deaths or previous sexual traumas in past lives. And of course, this does not just have to be past life stuff. This is this life stuff for many of us. But that being said, even if you are all good and fine, this is a time where really deep stuff can be brought up and looked at. And this is where things get really interesting because it's not black and white. This is when we're starting to look at sexual healing. This is when we're starting to look at Tantra. And Tantra, the understanding of Tantra, it's not black and white. It's like you can look at something through your appearance and have all sorts of judgments and judge a book by its cover. And that's totally misleading when it comes to Tantra. Tantra is you have birth trauma, you have sexual trauma, you have death trauma. Well, sometimes the way to cure these things and heal these things is to go back into them. to go back into the murky, uncomfortable feelings that we have not shed a light on yet? Well, guess what? Light's going into these places. Illumination is happening in these places. And the complexity and the depth of what gets revealed to us can be overwhelming. Because it's very easy in this day and age to assume what seems easiest and nicest for everybody because we're nice, loving people. It's not saying anything's wrong. So in our relationships, we assume this position, we assume this role, and I'm just going to be the perfect father, I'm just going to be the perfect son, and I listen to everybody else's philosophy. Or, you know, the Sagittarius full moon is, I've got my own philosophy squared away. You know, I go to church every week, I do this, and that's that. And my problems are solved. And my spirituality is in the bag. And the real understanding of the spiritual journey is that the spiritual journey is one and the same with our own healing. If you think, I'm totally healed and done, I think that there can be some very rude awakenings that really burst that bubble. And that's where a lot of us are going right now. Is we want to be open to the fact of, I want to go into my healing journey. I want to go into my spiritual journey. I want to encounter hell. I want to encounter the deep ingrained feelings and beliefs that do not match up with reality. Because there's alarm clocks that are starting to go off right now, and the whole world is going to be waking up. Oh, I don't have everything in the bag. There's not a simple one-way solution to solve this stuff. And that means what? We can't keep wasting our time. That's like the hugest thing, is this is a wake-up. This is like, oh, this is like eyes go open. Overstimulation, energy's going through us, it's time to wake up. There's no more time that can be wasted here. And that's just acknowledging where we are in reality. You can go off into your bubble and you can pray, you can go off into your bubble and do some magic ritual or chant or go to church or do whatever. Is this actually going to be curbing the direction we're going back into a place where we can receive sunlight, we can receive nature, and this whole thing's not going to go to shit because we're so delusionally paving over the landfill and painting a face on it? And it's very, very easy to do. And it's very, very common in the New Age movement. Oh, well, I was broken, but then I joined the commune. Oh, well, I was broken, but then I started meditating. And now it's, all you have to do is smile, and your feelings will automatically be better and everything's fine. Why doesn't everyone just smile more? Gee, I don't know. Because you have wounds so unconsciously buried in you, you don't even want to admit it. It's so deep. It's so prevalent everywhere. It like emanates without of us. We don't want to confront this stuff. We don't want to look at this stuff. We don't want to go that deep. We don't want to see stuff that scary. Well, my friends, it's the time. It is the time. It is the time for us to be that strong. It is the time for us to be this heroic. This is our rite of passage. This is us taking back our power and our strength. It begins now and it carries through the summertime. This Mars retrograde goes on through August. This is the time for us to change how we handle our willpower, how we handle our energy, how we handle our creativity and sexuality. And creative sexual energy is one and the same, much like the sun radiating its rays out onto the solar system, impregnating the planets with life. We have this potency within us, and it's powerful, and it's strong. And what gets in the way of it? Is it rules and regulations? Is it black and white logic? Oh, well, my sexual energy has to be contained in this box. Yeah, you think that that might be restricting your creative flow of what you can do in the world? How confident you can feel being in yourself? Well, let me tell you something. It's going to make you feel a lot more confident to be admitting where you are and the stuff that we're working through and the challenges that we have and the intensity that's in life, rather than being in denial and being delusional about it and saying, well, yeah, I had really challenging sexual wounds and parental abuse and repeating patterns, but I do my japa every day, and so this stuff's taking care of itself. And it's like, no. We have to encounter in ourself the shadows, the darkness, the wounds that are there. And until we wake up to that, we are literally imprisoning ourselves in a hell realm, paving over it with concrete and painting a face on it. And let me tell you, there's nothing more disturbing than this, and that's the vast majority of the world. The vast majority of human beings and consciousness are in this state. We have paved over our landfills, put smiley faces on it, go get some Colgate toothbrush. It's going to make everything just fine. Oh yeah, this is your role, you're a parent. Oh, this is your career. The spiritual journey is about taking away the distractions and the layers of bullshit and the layers of deceit so we can actually see who we are. And guess what? The trauma and the sexual wounds and the ickiness and the complexity and the stickiness is very well a part of who we are. And until we encounter that stuff and shine a light on it and start to actually heal it, which begins with being aware, and that's where we're all going. It's not comfortable to wake up out of, I thought I was in heaven, and it turns out, well, things aren't exactly perfect yet. Ooh, that's not a pleasant thing. This is Kali Ma. Kali Ma is coming in. Kali Ma is a beneficial goddess. She loves us. She wants the best for us. And she's coming in with her axes and her swords, and she's popping bubbles. And she's making us aware of the false advertisements, the false gurus, and we all have this inside of ourselves as well. I try to be this, I force this philosophy, I force this truth, I force this way of being. You can't force the truth. You can't force reality. We have to be where we are today. Quick little addition. Prayer and intention is very powerful, though to remain powerful, prayer and intention must evolve with us. So here's a little recommended prayer that we can maybe keep within us while we're dealing with this transformation, while we're dealing with this Kali Ma energy that's going on through the summertime. And it goes a little something like this. Take it from me. Take it all from me. Take all that is not my own. Take all that is not me. Take all that is not the truth. Take it from me. I may grab on, I may not understand. Take it from me. If we can get into this heart of surrender, if we can get into this process, then this can be much more of a handing off of what we no longer need, rather than being stripped naked. So take it from me. Take it from me. We need to feel uncomfortable sometimes and allow that discomfort to pull us into the core issues that are there, so we can encounter these issues and evolve into a greater understanding of the truth, greater understanding of God, greater understanding of sexuality, and guess what? It's not as black and white as pretty much everyone has led us to believe. It's not like that. Reality versus appearances can be on opposite sides of the cosmic spectrum. What might look like a wounding and a trauma taking place might be the same thing that we have to go back into in order to heal that trauma, in order to release this stuff. And that's what Scorpio is all about. We need to release stuff, release our fears, release our insecurities. And through encountering and releasing this stuff, we come in contact with a deeper power than what we knew was possible. Oh, in the past, I'm not supposed to be that powerful. To be a spiritual person means that you're a servant, which means that you're always doing really simple, mundane things. Well, maybe a benefit to step that game up and start doing bigger things and more profound things in the world, which might require you seeing yourself differently than how you saw yourself before. Oh, well, I'm just to throw my hands up to the universe and get ripped around and thrown around type of person. This is what God wants from me. I don't think so. I think that all of this waiting for a savior and everything getting worse and worse and worse is inevitably going to force us to be our own potential. We can fix these things. We can solve these problems. We can be that powerful. We can be that strong. We can transform. We can use alchemy. We can use magic to take something that looks evil, looks bad, looks disgusting, looks horrible, looks like the end of the world, and transmute it into something thoroughly different. It's not the end of the world, my friends. We're moving into a totally new one. A new one that fundamentally cannot rest upon the same rules and regulations and limited shallow understanding that we possessed in the old world. And that means that all of this shallowness, this limited understanding is going to be crumbling, and it is crumbling. And in the midst of that, we feel uncertainty. I don't know what the truth is. I don't know what's going on. I don't know where things are leading us. And this is why it's a rite of passage. This is when we really get to know our faith. This is when we really get to know God. This is when we really get to know the full spectrum. And it is the full spectrum. It's not, oh, discard this, discard this. You want to know the best way to spot someone who has shaky understanding and philosophy and is typically a bullshitter? They invest so much energy in telling you what's not true. Oh, that's not true. Oh, well, don't look over there, you'll waste your time. Don't do that practice, that's a waste of time. Oh, well, don't do that. No, that's just misleading BS. What's misleading BS is discarding anything. What's misleading BS is saying that this doesn't apply. This is discarded. Oh, everybody who believes this is crazy and they're just totally off their rocker and they're delusional and there's nothing valid in what they're saying. That is our little grain of salt hint that, hey, I don't know. The universe isn't that black and white. The universe is way more complicated, aka way more interconnected than that, to discard or discount anything. So Black Moon Lilith going into Scorpio, Mars going back into Scorpio, this is not a time where we're going to have a choice. We have to acknowledge what's here. We have to acknowledge the whole of everything that's here. There's a lot of disagreement. There's a lot of political friction that's going on in the midst of this. And rather than going up and picking our sword up, Mars and Sagittarius can join this full moon and crusading, and I'm going to convert you to this, I'm going to do this to you, this is the understanding that you need. This is the time for us to learn and grow through observing the world, seeing what's going on there, and then seeing, oh, okay, we really are a little crazy as a species right now. We really are not very aligned right now. We really don't have any unanimous solutions that we all agree on across the board. And that means that there is a lot of mess that we do have to clean up. And we should know that we are the souls that came here to do this. This isn't punishment. This isn't, oh no, I fell down, original sin, blah, blah, blah. Makes us powerless. Oh, I'm a sinner, I can't do anything. Oh, I'm a servant, I can't do anything. You can't be a saver like Jesus, so just go to church and bow down and do nothing in your life. It's not about converting other people to a new philosophy right now. It's about us changing ourselves inwardly in order to align with our own passion, energy, and power. That comes from a deep, tangible feeling within us. That's the stuff that we're working through. This is the stuff that we're clearing away in order to do that type of evolution and that type of transformation coming into our power. So, you know, next at the beginning of June, Sun is square to Venus, Sun is square to Neptune, Venus is square to Neptune. So, I mean, this is not a time where we have all our eggs squared away in one basket. This is not the time to sign up for what you're going to be doing for the next 50 years. This is the time to be doing some serious inner scrutinizing with a air and a feeling of surrender and understanding that going down and encountering the complexity is the work of the spiritual soul. It's not, oh, here I go, up and out, see everybody, not spiritual work. Going into the problems, into the complexity, seeing the world that's around us, and then just observing it for ourselves, seeing these patterns of what is not working, and within ourselves, changing our position, changing our role, how we handle our energy, how we handle our willpower. How are you handling your energy? Does it bring you guilt and shame? If it brings you guilt and shame, something needs to change. Everything that we're doing is meant to empower us. And everything that can change right now is in the service of us gaining that extra power. So do not be afraid. Do not be fearful of the powerful spiritual being that you are that doesn't understand it yet because we came into this mixed up world. We came here to encounter this mixed upness, this complexity, not to have the answer given to us by some guru or some teaching and, oh, there we go, beep, like a microwave dinner, everything's done. We came here to evolve, to encounter, to change, and confront these things. Because we are all children of God, and we are all working together in evolution to make nature better and better, make God realer and realer, make the world more and more of a family, and actually orient ourselves to nature in a realistic, full spectrum, not discounting or throwing out anything, even if it's black, even if it's sticky, even if it's scary. Yeah, death is scary. Nobody talks about it. Nobody looks at it. It happens. It's going to happen to you. Are we just going to put all this stuff on the back burner forever and let it fester there so that we can just get thrown into this space of fearfulness and not knowing? Or are we going to do this now and move forward now? That way we're fearless, we're not afraid, and we have the power and confidence to move forward and to initiate others into the fearlessness and the power that we inwardly possess, being reunited with the strength and power of our soul, which is transcendental, which is not afraid of death, which is not afraid of the past lives, which is not afraid of the dark ages, which is accepting, seeing it all, understanding the lessons that are there, and taking it into the next phase, the next cycle, the next age. And in this endeavor, I am absolutely wishing you all the best. You are very welcome to purchase a reading from me at the link below. I now offer $66 mini readings, which go for an hour, and we can talk about whatever questions you have, whatever is coming up. It is a conversation. It relies on interactivity, but we can talk about all of this stuff. We can get some reaffirmation about what's going on. That way we cannot be so afraid. Accept this initiation, accept this invitation, and be it. So much love to you and your beloveds. Namaste.